an NFT? Cool. Raise your hand if you work for a Web3 company. All right, now raise your hand if you're new to the space and you're just curious and you're just trying to see what the vibes are. Okay, cool. So we're here. It's a safe space for all of us, and we're gonna chop it up about everything Web3, from NFTs to the music space to the art space to DAOs and beyond. If you guys don't know me, I'm Goldie Harris. I'm the founder of 24 Hours, which is a creative playground for Black and Brown creatives in the physical and digital space. I'm also the artist marketing and promotions manager at United Masters, and I'm super happy to be here. So this event was brought to you by the Williamsburg Hotel, 24 Hours, and Dot Connector. I'm going to let some of my favorite people in the Web3 and music space introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about what they have going on. So Tangina, would you like to start first?
Hey y'all, I'm Tangina Stone. I'm a singer, songwriter, producer, overall music person. And for me, I'm very, very new in the Web3 space. And what I'm working on is a gallery for my album, my upcoming album called Pisces. So I'm working on an NFT gallery project for the whole entire album. In addition to that, I minted my first NFT, and we're just putting it up for auction. We just did on Zora, and it's for a music video called Peggy. So I'm very, very interested in figuring out new ways to kind of immerse myself in the music culture as it pertains to Web3. So yeah, that's something.
Hey everyone, my name is Jason Ludman. I am the founder of Dot Connector and also a partner at Northside Studios, which is right over here on North 10th. I have a background in film production and music production as well. Our sort of ethos over at Dot Connector is to bring Web 2 IP into the Web 3 space, and also help artists figure out sort of this whole landscape. And just thank you so much for everyone showing up, and thank you Goldie for helping put this together.
We got one. Hey everybody, my name is David Hernandez. My traditional day job is running operations and development for Happy Monkey. We're the East Coast's largest experiential cannabis lifestyle brand. We essentially just pioneer a fun way to consume cannabis outside without it being the normal stoner fest people kind of think of, and just really dope stuff. And my passion's Web3, so I do everything from collecting, onboarding, creating, curating, and speaking on panels like this. So I'm just excited to be here.
What's up, everyone? My name is Jamar. I am the founder of a DAO. A DAO is, for anyone who doesn't know, everyone should know the NFT. It's a decentralized autonomous organization. Simply just mean a digital organization. And our DAO is a DAO for compassionate, authentic, and ambitious people. It's pretty broad because the product is a messaging app, so it's kind of like a new social experience, but you gotta collect an NFT and be a part of our DAO to enter. So the product is a social messaging app. So yeah, that's what I'm doing here. And I wasn't at South by Southwest, but members of my DAO were Goldie and Maroof and Kendra. So
Yeah.
and they took the merch down there, so kind of fun.
Totally. Okay. So my first question to warm us up is, how are NFTs valuable to you all? How do you guys find value in it? And this is for everybody.
I find values in NFTs because I think it's an entire new sort of way to express yourself. It doesn't have to only be art. We're seeing growth in industries like cannabis, industries like real estate. It's really, really sort of endless. The smart contract technology allows you to sort of play in a way and gamify an economy that hasn't yet been seen before. I just think that it's it creates a new avenue for people, and it's just great to see that people who have not had access to wealth before, whether they be artists or people who have been traditionally locked out of banking or other sorts of things, now have access to a sort of utility that allows them to generate wealth and express themselves.
For me, what I really like about it, similar to what you just said, I like that I see creatives that have felt looked over throughout their careers shine. They've found a lane to shine. One person that I admire more than anyone in the NFT space right now is my good friend Natasha, and she's doing so many things, but was one of the first artists that actually sold a music video as an NFT. In a song, and so she did these things, for songs that like she struggled to move as an artist, and then to see that work be appreciated, because me being like a friend and a longtime fan always saw that, but her introducing this work into a new space with fresh ears, new people hearing it and believing in it, seeing that is very, very powerful, and seeing the way that so many creatives have felt empowered by it. I remember the first conversation I had with Natasha about just a thing I didn't understand. Just being able to have a transparent conversation, like, hey, I don't get this thing about an NFT. How can I sell a song as an NFT? And she was explaining to me that like a song or a video is essentially like selling an autographed copy of it. And just that language that I didn't have access to before made the difference for me in being able to understand that, like, oh, I can do something in this space. And she even walked me through with, the music video. Actually, Goldie directed the music video that we are putting out. And she broke down like the split process for me. Just, because that's a question that I had. There's nowhere you can Google, hey, how do I go about proper splits for minting an NFT? It's hard to find the information for a music video. So I think that the accessibility is a really, really like attractive and empowering thing about this space for me.
And so for us, the NFT serves as access to our community.
His mic isn't on, I don't think.
The mic is.
Or maybe. Yeah.
All right, I'll go first. Can you hear me? I'd say for me, the value I see in NFTs, so I'm a big in real life person. I like going out and leaving my house and experiencing things. I feel like, especially in the last year of me being involved in the NFT space, I've not only like interacted with a whole new community, but similar to like Jason was saying, like it's like a way of almost like showing my identity without having to like wear it on my clothing, or like sign for a Facebook group or follow Instagram. It's like this new way where I'm connecting with people and like what feels like lifelong friends through owning these assets and this like fandom for these like assets I'm having. So it's not always the specific art, but a lot of it's for me, like I was just in South by and East Denver before that, and NFT Miami and everywhere in between. Like I love to travel and just like feel people's energies. So I'm a big fan of how that's transcending the digital space for sure in the NFT world.
Yeah, so for us, NFT just serves as access to our community. I've been trying to build a messaging app since 2013, and finding the right people to join the community has been tough. So we're just using the technology as a token to our community. It's a collectible, you can sell it if you want, and it's like a badge to show that you support our mission of building a more authentic society.
I just want to chime in on that. Like, so how many of you guys have a Netflix or like a Hulu account or something along those lines, right? We all do, or you have access to somebody's email and password. We all do, right? So if you think of your Netflix subscription as an NFT, right? That's something you own. And let's say you're done with Netflix, you no longer care to stream the original content. You can sell that NFT compared to just being a subscriber. The money that you're spending monthly, cool. You don't see that again. When you own the NFT, you use that NFT to get access to all this original content. But when you're done with it, you can go ahead and sell it. So that's like at least for me, I think that's like one really valuable aspect of an NFT and the impact of like what ownership looks like. So that's my take. Jason, do you wanna chime in here?
Yeah, I think the ability to actually own something. And it's not tangible. It's on the internet. But look at the way that we, something like Netflix, or even the way that we buy concert tickets. Everything has become digital. When's the last time you walked into a Blockbuster? I think that creating this sort of direct consumer to artist or consumer to creator sort of economy, there's a lot of power to that because it gets rid of gatekeepers. It allows for people to actually express themselves in a way, and to stop gatekeepers from sort of saying, no, you can do this or you can't do that. If you can build community around anything, any sort of idea, you can create a microeconomy around that. It's kind of like Kickstarter on crack, because you're giving the people that invest in you an asset. And it's only a year old. So the fact that we're sitting here and having this conversation, and just being down at South by Southwest, or even East Denver, or Art Basel before that, the power that this space has created in only a year is astronomical. When I was at the North American Bitcoin Conference in January, and they were saying that NFTs are only at 1% market infiltration, and that's a $41 billion industry, which is up from $320 billion in 2020. In comparison, the fine art market is a $50 billion industry. So after 1 year, the NFT market space is pretty much where the fine art market space is. And that's because it really has only been able to infiltrate that market, because that's the simplest sort of, direct artist to consumer sort of subset. But whether it be cannabis or real estate or film or music, these are all industries that really haven't been fully tapped into yet, and I think the next 5 to 10 years are going to be very, very exciting to see where these other industries go with this technology.
You mentioned something about gatekeeping, which I want to ask Tangina a question about, what's the opposite of gatekeeping, like independence, right? So you've been making music, you've been a singer-songwriter for quite some time, and you've absolutely remained independent all the way through. So I want to ask you, why have you remained independent? Why did you choose independence, and kind of how has this helped your transition into the Web3 space?
That's a good question. Why have I remained independent? I think understanding, just like many things, the industry has shifted, has changed a lot, the music industry, the entertainment industry as a whole. And I think that so many of the dreams that I had in the beginning of my career, I thought there was only one way to get them. And understanding now that I don't have to compromise things like my integrity, my sound, my style. And finally, for me, it was creating an album during the pandemic that I fully believe in, and for the first time approaching music from a place of, I wasn't making it for an industry, I was making it to change an industry, making it to be me, to carve my own space. And I think it's really important for Black artists, especially in the industry, because we are pushed out of genres that we pioneered. So for me, my act of rebellion for that is kind of to make whatever music that I want. I listen to everything, and the only thing that my music really has in common is it's me on the song. But I think doing that has been powerful for me, and what I like that I'm seeing in the NFT space is specifically for Black creators, is that they are doing that as well, and are figuring out ways to make a living doing it in the NFT space. And so I think that that's really special and powerful. And I think sometimes what happens with things, any huge cultural shift, gatekeeping starts to happen. And Goldie and I were having a conversation about some people that we know that are in the NFT space and are just really killing it, really great. And some of the conversations that you see around it, I had someone I was having a conversation with was saying that he no longer wants to give any advice to anyone on NFTs unless they pay him. And I was like, whoa, okay. He said, no, actually, he said you have to buy one of them I think the starting, it was like $300 for the first one. He's like, you have to buy one to have a conversation with me about it, which I respect on some level, but then on the other level, I'm like, damn, well, that's kind of discouraging for new creatives who don't have the resources to afford that, but really want to learn. And so what Goldie and I were talking about when I first said, hey Gold, I just called her up, I was like, hey, I really want to learn more about NFTs. And I said, and one of the things for me is I want to be extremely transparent the entire way with everything that I learn. And I never want to because that's the thing, non-fungible token. We can never run out of unique ideas. So there truly is space for everyone in here, in this space. And that's what I love so much about it, that I always say that throughout my career, I've said that as an independent artist, there's room for all of us, but I think it's more true than ever in this space, there truly is. So yeah, that's how I feel about that.
That's dope. I want to open up a conversation to NFTs as a utility, but as we continue this conversation, listen, I know that the Web3 NFT space is new for a lot of us, and if you guys had a question about anything, please just give me a little signal. No question is a silly question because there's someone else in this room thinking the same thing. But yeah, give me a little signal so I can answer your question. So you're actually digesting the content that we're speaking about right now. Yeah.
Goldie and I, for our NFT, are tweeting the process out the entire time. So yeah.
Even the mistakes.
Yeah, go for it. You gotta project your voice here.
My name is CJ. As someone who makes audio art, in your approach to making it as an NFT, do you think about it more about making it something more valuable as a rarity, or trying to get as many people as possible to see it by putting it out at a lower level? Or in your approach, what has been better?
So you're saying if a one of one is better than releasing it as editions?
Exactly.
I mean, I'm gonna let you guys take this one.
You're saying, are you talking specifically, you said audio, you're talking about music, okay. Yeah, you too. Mine's quick. For me, I think just being in the space that I'm in general with music, embracing the idea that nothing that I make, nothing that comes from me is bad, even if it's not for a specific person's consumption. So I'm definitely in the space where I'm making something that is me, what comes from me. I'm not thinking about how many will consume it.
I don't know if that's good or bad.
I think it just comes down to, what your goals are for that specific project. You might want to do something that's a one-of-one, a la the Wu-Tang album or whatever, where, you make it super rare and only people that own it can hear it, and the person that owns it can decide whether they release it or not. Or you want something that, your fan base or people that follow you can easily have access to. So it really just comes down to, the ethos of the project and what you're trying to accomplish. And it's there's a million different ways to do this thing. If you can imagine it, you can do it. It just comes down to what you want.
There's value in both. There's so much value in both sides.
Exactly.
And on the collector side, I kind of think of it as I don't mind buying an edition of an original piece of art if it gives me access to some kind of community. But if there's a reason for me to own that one-of-one, and there's actually a push to be that exclusive holder, I'm also enticed by that as well. So I think it's the way that it's framed and the way the work is put out to decide that question.
We have one more here.
Yeah, on the topic of streaming platforms, Netflix, etc., the film industry being on top, Jason, you said, how do you see NFTs affecting streaming platforms like Netflix in particular?
Well, I'd say out of, so going down to South by Southwest, you had sort of the tech industry first, and the film industry, and then music was last. Film is definitely the furthest behind in the NFT space. I think that just because it comes down to what it actually takes to make a film, the amount of people and everything that's involved, and the gatekeeping in film is probably much more intense than the music industry. Not that the music industry doesn't have its own issues, but the film industry definitely there's just more sort of I'd say old industry standards in that realm. I've the PGA, which is not the golf thing, but the Producers Guild is definitely starting to tap into how to utilize NFTs, especially to raise money for projects. Where it's going to go in terms of streaming platforms, it's yet to be seen. I mean, something interesting just in that space is what Disney's doing. So Disney released NFTs around all their IP. So everything from Lilo and Stitch to The Simpsons to, Beauty and the Beast. They released like different NFTs around, and what I'm hearing through the grapevine is that those NFTs that you own, they're going to start to implement AR technology at their amusement parks. And so the NFTs that you own, you're going to be able to like walk around with like Homer, or like walk around with like Nemo, and there's going to be all this sort of like experiential stuff like happening in their parks. So Disney has Disney Plus. How that implements their streaming platforms, I'm not sure, but film definitely has a little bit of a ways to make up. Music is starting to get there. Art is already there, fine art. But film is definitely, in a far third place, at least in like sort of like the big three industries that enter the NFT space.
But the conversations are definitely being had. While we were in South by, Jason and I both got in a conversation with someone who works with Warner Media and runs their like metaverse division essentially. And they're constantly figuring out how to be delicate with brands like Harry Potter and Looney Tunes and all these big monoliths when we think in like traditional media. And there's a lot of smart people and a lot of people who need to be a little bit more crypto native and focused, thinking of these problems. But I think South by specifically was a perfect kind of mix of exchanging minds and whatnot, kind of like moving that dial forward. But also to agree, I was there in South by for I think 8 days, and the most exclusive highbrow environment I was in were like the film releases and the Ethan Hawke film we went to go see, and all these kind of spaces where people won't even talk to you in the room. There's no real circulation. It's just it's still super very gatekeeping. So it was very anti-WAGMI or NFT vibes, 100%.
What's WAGMI? What's WAGMI?
WAGMI stands for We're All Gonna Make It, and it's this idea like it's like an ethos to the NFT space. It's a platform that allows anybody to essentially be a part of it and to win. And it's a space it's very Web3. I would say. I don't know if Jason wants to chat.
Yeah, I think like so WAGMI kind of comes from this mentality that there's like enough ETH to go around for everyone. We live in this very sort of scarcity mindset society where it's like for me to win, someone else has to lose. I've been in crypto since 2013, and the reason that I got into it was because I thought that there had to be like a better way, or at least an alternative. The conversations that I had with people is that if you're a capitalist, you should like crypto because it's competition. If fiat's McDonald's, like crypto is Burger King. So in theory, it should make the status quo better. But the idea of WAGMI is, there's enough to go around, and we can kind of all lift each other up, and someone doesn't have to lose for you to win, which is sort of the way that we're programmed now to think about our economy.
I have to note that quote real quick. I have to put that down on my laptop real quick.
Good one.
Yeah. So, two parts to that when you talk about WAGMI, right? My favorite thing about NFTs is that creators get paid in perpetuity. So you think of some iconic artists like Andy Warhol or like a Basquiat, right? Who would sell their painting to one person. He sells that painting for, I'm gonna make up a ridiculously low price of 10 grand to a collector. And that's it. Basquiat walks home with 10 grand. That collector holds onto that art piece as the value increases over time. So that collector can go ahead and sell that piece down the line for, let's 10x it, for $100,000, right? Basquiat doesn't see $1 of that resale. With NFTs, every single sale on the blockchain, that creator gets paid in perpetuity. It's between, 5 to 20% is what most people are doing, but it's really all up to the creator, which is one of my favorite things about NFTs and, the wag me. Like, that's the vibes.
Yeah, a real world example of that is the Beeple 500 Days sale. So people sold that piece at, well, it wasn't Art Basel because it was during COVID, but what was kind of like the Art Basel gathering in 2020 in December. He sold his first 500 days for, I think it was $10,000. It sold again in January for I think something like $1.6 million, which he saw 10% of that sale. And then the big sale that everyone knows about, I think was in April or maybe early May of 2021, which was $69 million. So from a $10,000 sale to which he saw all of, to a $69 million sales at, was it Sotheby's? Christie's, he saw 10% all along the way, and as that piece continues to sell, he'll continue to see royalties, and that's why you see a lot of sort of estates, especially old fine art estates, starting to transfer their collections to some sort of NFT utility, so they can continue to get paid, and also because the art world is filled with a lot of frauds.
I do want to dive into some South by stuff, but before we do that, Jamar, I have a question for you, because you have your own DAO, right? And we sort of touched on what a DAO is. What do you think? Because I love the mission behind your DAO. What do you think is missing in the Web3 space?
So I want to say that I don't think about this space the way that most people think about this space. Like, I think about it as like, it's a space where I can create anything I want. So with that mind, like with that mentality is, we don't think about it in context of what the industry is currently doing. We try to take like a complete authentic approach, and that's the key word, is authenticity. So it started with our messaging app. I've been building the messaging app since 2013, and it just was the idea that people should earn value for helping create some of these products and companies. So in 2018, after I failed to raise money after 5 years, I partnered with this one cryptocurrency. It was called Kin. We became the first app in the App Store to allow people to earn this on crypto. But it was like a lot of libertarians that they brought to our community. So like basically like Trump supporters took over my app, because this was 2018. People started calling my app the Trump app. But even with that experience, I learned that people deserve a place where they can be their authentic selves. So whether they believe in Trump or whether they believe in whoever, they should have a place where they can share it, and people, when other people's interested in what they're talking about, should be able to just understand what they're talking about, and at least like try to understand them. So we created DAO for compassionate, authentic, and ambitious people. It's pretty broad because we believe everybody can fall into those buckets. So it's just the world needs more compassionate authenticity. So that's really what we designed the DAO for.
No, can we just clap it up for that real quick, please, 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 please? That's a vibe. So all of the Web3 NFT things have been living in the digital space. You either need to be on Twitter or Discord, a little bit of Instagram to know what's going on in order to tap in. But South by Southwest really gave us the opportunity to experience that in real life and see real people. So, Jason, David, I want to ask you, what was your highlight of South by Southwest? What do you think, was a really cool Web3 activation, or who did it right?
I would say, for me, what I was most anticipating going into South by, and I was like blowing up Jason and all my other DGen friends, was for the Doodles activation.
I'm sorry. What's DGen?
Oh, sorry. So a DGen is like a proper noun for someone who's like an NFT junkie, or someone who's like in that space. And on Twitter, like it's short for degenerate. So a degen, and essentially I'm a self-proclaimed degen, and I have a lot of friends who are also self-proclaimed degens, but people who just like spend a lot of time on NFT Twitter and talking NFTs more than conscionably appropriate.
Throwing in the JPEGs.
But so I was hitting up all my NFT Twitter homies and trying to figure out how to get into this activation. Luckily, it was open to the public, and there were exclusive activation spaces for holders, and a doodle's floor, the cheapest doodle is essentially like 30 or 40 grand, right? So it's this entire Disney World style playground with 3D printed objects and a whole almost like a whole built-in lore that felt like I was walking into like a TV show or a cartoon show. It was just so well built out and tastefully done. I would say that was definitely my favorite activation. Like someone who doesn't understand NFTs at all could have brought someone there and they would have enjoyed themselves, had a popsicle, some free nudes, and all the other random stuff that they had there to kind of like get you enticed. But that was definitely what I was most excited for. But what really was my highlight was I got to see Dolly Parton on Friday night, which she's 76 years old. I listen to like drill music and shit that is not Dolly Parton, but can't pass up seeing Dolly Parton. And it was her first time ever playing in South by Southwest, and she wasn't going to promote her newest album or the Moderna vaccine. She was going there to promote the Dollyverse, which she has her own fully fledged metaverse. And at 76 years old, she's like peddling NFTs to the entire country community, which I think was just insane, brilliant, mind-blowing, and just for me, that's it was the fullest circle of NFTs have penetrated everywhere in the world. You know what I mean? Like Dolly Parton is on stage telling you to get a POAP. I don't know where to go beyond that. So that's our.
Yeah, I would agree. I think in terms of activations, Doodle's definitely won South by Southwest. Their space was wildly impressive. It was it's a warehouse, probably about 10,000 square feet, and it was completely branded in their sort of quirky, colorful design. They had a noodle bar, they had a coffee space, they had this sort of digital graffiti thing where you could go and you could draw things and you could create art. And what was really cool, the way that they did it, was they made it open to the public, but also if you were a holder, you had additional experiences within that space. So all holders got these sort of these blue VIP badges, and there was areas around the warehouse where you could put your badge up to this little circular thing, and your doodle, the one that you would own, would become part of the experience that was already there. There was a merch shop, so people could buy t-shirts or hoodies, or they had these figurines. But then there was one that was only exclusive to doodle holders. So if you bought that, you could rock that, everyone would know you're a doodle holder, or you could go home and you could flip it on StockX, which a lot of these NFT projects that have exclusive merch are selling for a lot of money on StockX, which is a resale website for people who don't know. So they kind of really set the standard for what an activation could be at South by Southwest. They ended up having a really cool concert with Diplo that was super hard to get into because both David and I tried to get into and weren't able to. And we're not doodle holders. But yeah, that was definitely very impressive. It felt like Disney World in there. It felt like the future in there. And the Dolly Parton, the Dollyverse, seeing her in Texas, her telling stories, which is such a base part of the NFT space. The way that people sell their NFTs is by kind of telling their story and where they come from. So I definitely agree that those two events were sort of the highlights for me as well. South by Southwest.
I also want to shout out the Cool Cats community as well.
Oh yeah.
They took over a pizza shop right on 6th Street and were giving out it was supposed to be only for holders, but the pizza shop wasn't checking, so if you just said the word Cool Cats, you got free pizza and beer all day, and it was the perfect kind of kickback. I'm not a holder at all, but I got to hang out there with other holders, and ApeCoin, which is an NFT coin essentially that recently dropped. I was in that space with a bunch of people who, when that news dropped, and just the energy in the room for these in real life NFT events. It's just always so interesting to see how this energy actually manifests in person and not just on Twitter or Discord. But yeah, South by Southwest was really interesting for all that.
Yeah, definitely being there. So ApeCoin is a coin that's attached to a Bored Ape Yacht Club. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of this, but it's like pretty much the most expensive, most popular NFT project in the space. And they recently dropped a coin and announced their metaverse space, which is going to be called Other Side. Highly suggest when you guys get home to watch the trailer for that. The energy and just the excitement down South by Southwest when that was all announced was just, you know, you were saying that you were at the pizza shop and people were like literally like leaving to like go home to degen on their computers because it was just like, all right, like what is this? When is it going to drop? You know, I think when it dropped, it went up to $39. So, you know, holders I think were given. You know, I think if you had an ape, you had a kennel dog, and you had a mutant ape. You got almost like 13,000 coins. So, you know, I think the cost of an ape coin right now is about like $11. So 11 times 13,000. You know, that was airdropped directly to their holders. So, you know, that sort of idea of creating wealth. And, you know, the people that own apes are mostly artists and people who are on Clubhouse early into the space and saw this interesting project that was doing a different sort of way. You know, I know a lot of these people. They were not wealthy a year ago, and now they are very, very wealthy. So that's the power of this space.
One of my questions were, how can NFTs be used as an investment? And you broke that down pretty well. So I love it when my questions are answered before I ask them.
There you go.
Like I said again, guys, if there's any questions that you guys have, just let me know. We have a few more questions, and then we're gonna open it up to a Q&A to the entire floor. But David, this question's for you. Let's talk about Happy Monkeys and new collections gallery. How are you creating value in the Web3 space?
So for me, a lot of my inspiration interacting with the Web3 space is just I love just in real life events. With Happy Monkey, we essentially pioneered a cannabis consumption style that mirrors a nightclub, like one oak of smoke kind of space, but with no alcohol. And so we've been doing that for 5 years and just really like trailblazing and pioneering what a safe consumption space looks like that people haven't seen before. And so similarly with the Web3 space, I just love that disrupting kind of energy and having the opportunity to work with new collectors down the Lower East Side is another space where we're taking fine art displaying in exhibitions and giving them space and kind of like turning it on its head a little bit instead of it just being the same kind of high art, stuffy, gatekeeping kind of space. We're embracing Web3, we're embracing mid-career artists, and we're giving people opportunities to display art and sell NFT art that they normally wouldn't. And so when it comes to Happy Monkey and new collectors, I'm really all about kind of like redefining that stake where people might actually think about the space and then making it enjoyable and fun and interactive. So when you see it in person, that a lot of that learning is done through the experience. And so that's really what I focus on with those two companies.
So quickly, I know you guys see Tangina Stone quietly leaving the space, but she has a really big show. She's headlining Drum tomorrow and has to go to rehearsals. So Tangina, thank you for being a part of this conversation and making time. I'm hosting Drum tomorrow too if you guys want to hear me talk more. But follow her on Instagram at Stone Blue, that's STONEBLU, and on Twitter, Tangina Stone. So tap in, and she's at Drum tomorrow. So thanks, Tangina. We're gonna continue this. Jason, I want to ask you a question. What project are you most proud of in the space right now?
What project am I most proud of? It's a very interesting question. I definitely think, I'll go into a couple of projects that definitely stand out. I talked about Bored Ape, I talked about Doodles. I think Ukraine DAO is definitely something that's very impressive and I think is sort of the future of sort of like the nonprofit NGO space and how it can live in like Web3. So Ukraine DAO was started, obviously after Russia invaded Ukraine. It was started by Nadia Riot, who is the lead singer of a group called Pussy Riot, who are Russian and very anti-Putin and had been on that wave for a long time. I think she's been in jail a couple times because of that. And they put together this project. It was her and a couple of, do you know who was involved in that project?
I don't want to speak.
Yeah, I think it was Trippy was involved in that project, and there was one other person as well. And pretty much with the power of the blockchain, you can directly finance people in a way that you couldn't before. So if I wanted to give money to help the people of Ukraine in the past, I'd have to go through the Red Cross or maybe give money to some bank account. Both those things that can be compromised. With the Red Cross, you don't know where the money is going. Banking got shut down in Ukraine because of sanctions via SWIFT. So with the blockchain, I can directly give money to people or give directly money to a country, which Ukraine set up a Bitcoin and Ethereum wallet address where you could directly give money to the Ukraine government. Like, that's insane. So I think that project raised somewhere close to like $15 million, and they did it through the Party Bid app, which allows everyone to sort of give what they can, and in the end, you all get a token that shows that you invested into this Party Bid. And it's been used a lot, like in music and other sort of forms of NFT drops, but this was like for a Ukrainian flag. And now at NFT NYC, which is going to be coming up in June, there's a whole like doing good panel section. So I think the power of that and the power that you can directly reach people with money that can't be compromised, it can't be shut down, you can see directly where it's going. And with Ukraine DAO, you can see directly where they were sending the money and how much money they were taking themselves for operations. So that creates a sort of trust and transparency that we haven't seen before in the nonprofit and NGO space. So, it's
Thanks. So I have one more question, then we're going to open it up for a full conversation amongst the entire room. And then after that, we're just going to vibe out, drink some, and just, do the thing. But so for those who are curious about the space and want to get involved, what are some first steps they should take?
So if you know nothing about crypto and you're looking for something to kind of get, just to understand your footing a little bit, I would maybe reach out to one of the panelists, because I feel like a lot of us here are big open source kind of people, and we love kind of helping and onboarding. So if you're here, you already did like a huge step, so congratulate yourself and connect with one of us. If if you're not that kind of personable learner, I do always recommend like the NFT Now podcast, or listening to one of those kind of or getting a Twitter if you don't have a Twitter, and maybe following just like NFT hashtags and kind of starting your journey that way. I never want to give like blanket statements because everybody learns in this space so differently. But if you are here and you're looking for resources, reach out to us or follow us on Twitter and DM us or whatever you're comfortable with. But ask questions, and if anybody says they're an expert, run far, far away, because no one's an expert in this space yet.
Yeah, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up, clap it up.
Yeah, everything he just said, but like specifically, our DAO, we have a goal to onboard 1 billion people to Web3. So we're officially we're slowly opening up everything, but the whole idea is for newcomers and people who are interested to just join an existing community. So we're on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Jamar, and my DAO is at TBA DAO. So the DMs are open. And yeah, just contact me, and I'm down to answer anything in chat.
Yeah, I would say, the way that I learned, and I think the way that most of us learned is, when Clubhouse was a thing, just sitting in Clubhouse rooms and listening, that sort of energy is now moved over to Twitter. So definitely, dive dive into the Twitter space, follow some interesting people. You can follow us, follow Goldie. Gunnar right here is an amazing NFT artist. You should follow that guy. And get into some of those rooms, start listening, start hearing what people are talking about. And if NFTs haven't made sense to you yet, it's probably because you haven't found the right thing in that space. Because it's all about building interest or building community around interest. So whatever you're doing now or whatever you're interested in, whether it's music or art or film or basket weaving, whatever, there will be space for you in Web3, and it'll be, you can make money off of your interest now in a way where before it was like, all right, I got a side hustle, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. This makes that process a little bit easier.
Okay, dope. We're about to open it up for Q&A, but I just want to mention, if you guys found this valuable, can I get a round of applause real quick if you guys are having a good time? Okay, cool. So make sure you guys tap in with the staff here and be like, yo, we need Jason and Goldie to pull back up to do this like all the time. So if y'all can do that for me, give me a round of applause if y'all can do that for me tonight. Okay, cool. So let's open it up for a Q&A. Listen, all questions are welcome. There are no silly questions. It's a new space. No one's an expert, so don't be shy. Here.
If I'm starting an NFT project, what blockchain do I go? Ethereum, Solana, UX, Flow. There's so many different choices. What's your perspective on the best blockchain to build on, especially with the 3-4?
That's a great question. I'm going to repeat it just in case the people in the back didn't hear. His question was, if he's creating an NFT project, which blockchain should he put it on? So whether that's, Ethereum, Polygon, Tezos, whatever the case is, which one should he do and why?
I don't want to say there's like a blanket answer to this question at all, but I do want you to kind of like ask yourself and around your community you're building this project for. If this is a community that is, built through and has followed you through many different transitions, and this is just another hoop you're kind of giving them and they're going to willfully follow, then you can really think about the ethos of, maybe Ethereum might be a little unsustainable, or you want to look to Tezos or look to Flow, or you like what X is doing and the platforms they're dealing with, with GameStop, and you like that kind of, you're bullish on those things. But if you're kind of like starting a community from scratch that isn't in real life, you're, kind of creating your Discord and your Twitter, most of the noise in the NFT space, most of the traction is happening on Ethereum. And so it does price a lot of people out, and there are a lot of different pitfalls to it. But it really depends on, in my opinion, the community that you have and that you're trying to serve. And if you're trying to onboard a lot of people or get a lot of new people to the space or to your project who are already in the space, you're probably going to find them at Ethereum or Solana or some of the more built up ones, but really understanding what you're trying to deliver and who you're delivering it for, and then trying to pair that to the blockchain.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Conversations that I was having a couple, months ago was sort of like attaching the ethos of your project to the blockchain. But recently I've kind of been on a similar wave of what David just said, where, Ethereum might be the way. While Ethereum itself has high gas fees and does not have as easy access, there is a layer 2 called Polygon. I think with any of these projects, and you brought up longevity, Ethereum's been around for 5-6 years at this point. If you build on Solana, you build on AVAX, you build on these other sort of blockchains, who knows where they are in a couple of years. Bitcoin's been around since 2008, 2009. So that's only, 14 years for the longest running blockchain. Ethereum, came out, I don't know when it came out, 2016, 2015,
Was it in 13?
Was it earlier than that? Well, that was Ethereum Classic, and the new version, I think, came out a little later. Either way, in terms of longevity, everyone has a MetaMask that's in this space. So you're by being on that sort of mainnet, you're attracting the biggest audience. Where if you go to a different blockchain, you have to kind of teach people how to get on it and sort of convince them to get on it because everyone's already trading with their MetaMask.
All right, so my boy Simon came to see me speak today, and today he told me he's a Solana maxi, so I gotta just
all right.
I gotta defend the Solana peeps too, because the reality is every single blockchain has like these people who truly believe in the technology. I know friends who are like Cardano maxis, right? So it's like, I think you just gotta dive into the community and see what the community believes in, because everybody believes in totally different things. I think it's kind of like an individual choice at this point. I don't think you should be listening to people tell you like which blockchain to build on, or it's like you got to do your own research and, like they said, do what's right for you and your community.
I just want to shout out someone I met at Leaf Denver who releases NFTs on Binance, which I had never really understood there was even an ecosystem or community there. But he was telling me about how he reached out to Binance. Well, they have a bunch of SEC issues in America, but out in America they don't. So he reached out to them, and he was actually getting supported to release his NFTs on Binance. They were paying for his minting, and it's just like, if you reach out to a smaller ecosystem, they incentivize you. It's like a pay to learn or pay to use essentially. They will help you in ways that Ethereum doesn't need to help you because everyone's going there already. And so like there is no like one size fits all, but it really is what makes the most sense for you as the project leader and your community, for sure.
I just want to mention that, this entire Web3 space is all an experiment, and the blueprint is being created as we speak. So the fact that you guys are all here, we're all early, all right? And you guys should give yourself a round of applause right now for being an early adapter in this space. And yeah, I say that to say, again, there are no silly questions, so please ask them. We're in this space to learn. We're in this space to connect. So yeah, go crazy. I saw your hand up. Where do you see NFTs in the next 5 years? Good question.
In my wallet. I'm super bullish and a big believer in the idea that NFTs are gonna, like the same way if you want to go log on to, if you're on a new website and you want to use their free service and they tell you to sign in with Google or Facebook or something like that, I think you're going to start seeing that integration with your MetaMask or Coinbase or Wallet Connect or whatever. I don't know who's going to win that race in terms of the most mass adopted. Meta could drop their own Meta wallet tomorrow and everyone's going to do it, So I don't know who's going to win that, but I do see that same kind of integration of owning your data that Web3 allows is going to hopefully eclipse the Google sign in, the Facebook sign in, just like you don't have to remember your username and password for everything anymore. That next wave, and then on a macro scale, having these NFTs and having this kind of Web3 collection of your own data is going to allow you to interact with different companies in ways that honestly, even at South by, we were trying to talk and chart where it's going to go. I don't know how big it's going to actually become, that integration between companies, but I think a lot of the big companies we're talking about now who are not trying to adopt Web3 in the next 5 years are not going to be as big as they could have been if they did. And a lot of these smaller players are going to be the ones to eclipse them. And I'm not sure exactly what industries and where it's going to happen, but places like film and music, and we're seeing these record labels that are going to be able to challenge institutional players. It's going to really turn things on their head. And I also want to say, for everyone who's here in the room, as this Web3 space keeps getting crazier and online seems like it's keeps getting crazier, these in real life events are a cheat code. You know what I mean? Everyone here you're connecting with is spending time thinking about some shit from 2030, 2040 right now. So these are super important people in these rooms, and everyone asking questions are also super important. So just thank you.
I just want to say that, as ironic as it sounds, a lot of the people that I've met in Web3, I've met IRL, which is as backwards as it gets. But to answer your questions, just bouncing off what David said, is I see NFTs as a membership. So your traditional gym membership is going to be an NFT. Your traditional co-working space membership is going to be an NFT. You think about like when you first created a Facebook, it's like never would I have expected that I can sign into every single platform with my Facebook account. Like I literally use my Facebook or my Gmail account to sign into to any and everything just because of its convenience. And you guys already hear the whispers that, Meta, aka Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp, are getting ready to implement NFTs into their platform. So you think about the convenience that Facebook has when you're signing into every single, third party or whatever platform, and the fact that they're implementing NFTs, you can only imagine. So when I think of the future of NFTs, it's definitely going to be like a membership, a sign-in, basically just bouncing off what David said.
Yeah, no, I think the future of NFTs and smart contracts is going to be, very exciting. I think it's going to be implemented in every single industry in some sort of way, but it might not be as clear on the front end. Some of it might kind of move more to the back end, where the UI is something that you experience, but on the back end maybe it's being tapped into the blockchain. But just to give you an example, in Tampa Bay, the first piece of real estate was listed on Ethereum and sold the entire thing as an NFT. What the blockchain does, it allows for, loans and sign off on all these different things that would, if you were traditionally buying a piece of real estate, would take, weeks to accomplish. This can be done with a click of a button. So what that does for buying and selling real estate, I think that's going to become a very, very impressive market. Something like membership, something like, community, something like IRL experiences. I think this is going to be the way that people connect with each other. In a way that we do now, whether it's via Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. This is just going to be like the next version of that. For so long, these huge companies have made endless boats and boats, billions and billions of dollars of money off of us. And this sort of flips that on its head, where now we can make money off of what we're interested in, rather than that being flipped back and sold to us. We can sort of decide the value of what these different projects are. I think the next 5 years are going to be very, very interesting. You're going to see a lot of innovation and some exciting stuff, and maybe some not so exciting stuff too. But it's going to be cool, I think.
And on that too, a lot of generational wealth is going to be generated in this too. Like I know we're all here exchanging ideas and creating some really dope foundation, but there are a lot of microeconomies that are going to be made out of this, and just like I don't know if any of you found a TV show before all your friends and you put them onto it. You're like, imagine if that could somehow pay you one day. Finding that cool TV show or that dope artist or whatever it is, having that kind of affinity in this space, actually could lead to a generational wealth. Picking that project that one day could go on to be the next Disney or whatever it is. Those are all being built by people like us and people in this room. So you're extremely early still, but that's kind of a way to look at this space too. And not financial advice by any means, but there is money being made in this space.
And lastly, I want to say something that I think is going to be very dominant in this space is fashion and NFTs, just fashion and Web3. If you look around, a lot of us got that drip on, you know what I mean? And as the metaverse evolves, I want to be in the metaverse and I want to have my Rick Owens on. I want to have my barriers NYC. I want to have my Telfar. I want to wear what I want to wear. The digital version of me should reflect the physical version. So I think fashion and NFTs is really going to be big as well. Okay, so we have some more hands. Back here first. Go for it.
I just wanted to ask, what do you guys think of people saying, this is like a fad and this is a tech bubble and all of that stuff? Do you guys think it's a tech bubble? What do you think of that?
So her question is the people who are saying that, the NFTs and Web3 space is a fad. I think there's a bunch of Gary Vee videos out here that address that, when. So I had tweeted this one time where I was there were people who got left behind when we went from, newspaper to radio, right? And the people who got left behind when we went from radio to television, right? They're like, yeah, what the fuck, TV? Nah, radio is where it's at, is what we know. They're like, television is where it's at, is what we know. And then there was social media, right? Instagram came. They're like, photos? I don't understand why I would follow someone on a social media network just to look at their photos, right? And then people got left behind when we went from television to social, right? And then TikTok, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not getting on TikTok, I'm not watching this, I'm not doing this is for kids. And there are a lot of people who got left behind when we transitioned from, traditional Instagram, Twitter, Facebook to TikTok. So when we think of fads, I think, people are afraid of it. To just answer that question, like, new technology is scary, but then there are people like us who are the early adapters who don't need other people to prove that it makes sense, because we're genuinely interested in it and we kind of know how to already apply it to our lives. So that's my answer to that.
And also, I get how people think it's a scam, I think it's a fad, but the technology seems pretty obvious, and it's like, it's the first time that humans can outsource trust. And I think that's pretty interesting. And as you see more builders of color or builders that are women understand this technology, more like experiences in real life or more products make it like better in our society. So I think the technology is there that we can outsource trust. So I'm excited to see the diverse set of builders just design a better society than like what we all used to.
When I try not to have the conversation of why this doesn't make sense, because I always bring up using PayPal to pay for something, you're paying with a credit card online, or I'm only 25, right? So I haven't had many different crazy changes from radio to TV. I've just only really seen the internet, and I've just seen that kind of blow up. And I could just think the way I used YouTube in 2005, or when I wasn't supposed to be using YouTube or whatever, to using it now and the way things have changed, it's all been a learning experience. And if at any point I would have been oh, I'm not using that, I would have gotten left behind. And that's kind of, I try and preface that to people, because I hate giving financial advice, and I hate forcing NFTs on anybody, but it's just really giving literacy. And once you understand it, like you're saying, it's kind of obvious to see what you're looking at. You know what I mean? Once that literacy is there, once you know how to read it, So a lot of the time, it's just taking the time for that person to just baseline get the literacy. And if they still don't like it, then talk to them in 10 years and see what's up.
Can I add something on that?
Yeah, no, totally.
It's just because I live in
Hold on, we're gonna give you a mic. Pull up, bro. Pull up. He said he got something to say.
Alright, no, it's just I didn't find myself here when I was walking back to my home and just in a dream. But it's just I'm just so amazed to be part of this conversation. It's just, I think maybe because we are all living here and exploring this spot, it's just helpful to kind of identify how this got evolved. So now we are talking about, you said bubble, so we are talking about Web 3. So Web 1 was literally what our grandfathers and fathers were using to get onto the internet, like the television, the radio, all that. So Web 2 was kind of having our, I'm just because this was a self-explanatory, I was just exploring this myself, and I'm just explaining this very simple, so I'm hoping this is going to help you. So Web 2 was kind of having our personal pages like Facebook, Instagram, or selling our brands in all those platforms. So Web 3 is what we watch in Matrix. So literally kind of having our lands, our assets in that other world. So so that's just kind of something that I myself is kind of exploring and understanding, and it's so exciting. So I'm just so happy to be here randomly and listen to everybody. But I completely think what they were saying bubble for Web 1 and Web 2 was same for Web 3. There will always be those people gonna say this is bubble, but I think this is the reality.
Thank you.
Well, there was a bubble, but it wasn't a fad.
Yeah. My name is Thailand.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add on what everyone's been saying and what he said so eloquently, there are definitely bubbles, but if your thing isn't a picture of a monkey or a cat, that's fine. But the underlying contract technology, you know, the smartest minds at Google and Facebook and all these big Silicon Valley companies are leaving to work in Web3 because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You know, there's whether it be, you know, from silent movies to talkies or the beginning of the internet, there's always a pushback against new technology, and then also there are PR campaigns against things because they fuck up people's bags, and you know the whole ethos of this space is to go against, you know, legacy money and legacy companies that have the ability to push big PR campaigns. So Web3, smart contract technology is not going away. Will some of these NFTs that are popular now be worthless in the future? Potentially, but you know we're very, very early on. You know, if you kind of want to put a year on it in terms of like the traditional internet, we're like in 1998. So, you know, where was the internet in 1998? Like Google had just like popped up 2 years ago. Facebook wasn't even around yet, you know. So I don't think this is going anywhere. And on that tip too, it's like there's million and billion-dollar companies now in the Web3 space. So they have a lot of invested interest in this space not going away either. So yeah, it's here to stay.
I hope that answered your question. Okay, dope. Here.
If you're a new artist and you don't have a following or support fan base, how have you seen them scale and reach a community and figure out how to draw new appreciators in?
When you say artists, are you talking about like music artists, visual artists?
Visual artists,
visual
for
artist?
NFTs.
Okay, cool.
I would want to shout out. I don't know where Sibylla is, but she's over there. Perfect. So she is the head gallerist and founder of New Collectors Gallery. She works with a lot of like onboarding new artists who are mid-career and looking to embrace Web3 and exhibits their art. And so she's over here, so I had to shout her out. So definitely connect with her.
Okay.
But there are a lot of spaces, like if you jump on Twitter Spaces or coming to these in real life events, a lot of people who are helping one on board, but also exhibit art. I feel like for mid-career artists, a lot of like mid-career artists I deal with have a lot of ideas and are really not trying to learn the blockchain to use their ideas. They want it to be a lot more seamless, and it's usually a lot of hands-on work, but finding out what kind of work you want to put out, what you feel comfortable doing, and how much you as an artist want to commit to your community, because not every artist wants to live on Twitter or Discord and do that, but finding out what you're comfortable with emotionally, and then what project you want to put out, because half the work is going to be creating it, but in the NFT space, the other half is that like community attention and promotion to it, which I know a lot of artists makes them feel devoid of their work, so it's a balance and it's still a job, it's like very few people can just create a digital asset and just sell itself, but once again, asking that kind of question, if you are an artist or know any artists, Sibylla's pretty awesome, and then probably a lot of other awesome people in this space here too, but that's my 2 cents.
Could you put your hand up one more time, Sibylla?
She's the blue over there with the computer. Hi again.
She's really good with the computers. Always working, locked in.
Yeah, she's
okay.
locked in.
Okay, cool.
We're trying to get an exhibit sponsored, so we're outside.
Okay.
So if you guys, anybody in here who got a sponsor budget?
Yeah, hit us up.
Yeah, I would say definitely building your community, going onto Twitter, tapping in with people here. Gunnar right here is another amazing artist. He's
Yeah,
something you should
I know
tap in
Gunnar.
with.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like where you start. Like, NFT Twitter and the Discord spaces are very friendly and they're very welcoming, and everyone's trying to help each other out because, everyone's either dropped a project or trying to drop a project. And if they amplify you, you're going to amplify them. So again, this whole space is just about building community around whether it be your art or an idea. And if you're able to do that, you'll be successful.
And try to own your custodial rights. Now that might sound just in this space, it's all about ownership and actually owning your digital asset. And I made the mistake of minting my first project on OpenSea, easy minting to save a lot of money, and a bunch of stuff where I took a lot of shortcuts just to kind of put it out there. And then now I look back and I actually don't own the assets I minted. OpenSea does. And so I'm working on a project now to kind of figure that out and reach out to one of us if that's something that you're concerned about. But talk to artists who've made the pitfalls of minting and not, there's a lot of trial and errors. So like, the more people you know, the easier your time's going to be for sure.
Yeah, check out Manifold. They're a great contract to mint on, and you'll actually own what you mint. And unless like you don't care about what you're minting, don't mint on OpenSea contract. And if anyone here is from OpenSea, I'm sorry for saying that, but it's true.
So we have space for one more question, unless someone has a immediate answer tonight. But go for it.
So I've recently found out that I have 500,000 streams on Spotify, but it always feels like Spotify and NFTs are at odds, or just streaming in general. So I wanted to ask, is the streaming data even relevant to what NFTs is doing, or how do I use that data from streaming and being an artist for so long to kind of help my NFT life?
I think I'm qualified to answer this question. So I think when you think of Web 2, like traditional streaming, Spotify, Tidal, Apple Music, you think of Web 3, minting your music to the blockchain. Those are two different worlds, you know what I mean? Because of how people are consuming your music. When you're minting to the blockchain, people are able to buy that, whether it's a one-of-one or you're doing 50 editions. When you're releasing your music on Spotify or Apple Music or Tidal and whatnot, that's for the world to see, for the world to stream, right? So when I think of Web 2 versus Web 3, it's like Web 2 is you can get your music out to the masses. You can build a larger fan base. While in Web 3, you can cash in on your most loyal fans, your super fans, people who want to collect your music. That's different than someone discovering your music on a playlist, or you know what I mean, just giving you a listen. But then there are people who really believe in you as an artist and want to follow you in your journey, and they want to see you win. And not only they want to see you win, they want to invest in you. So those are the two, differences between the Web 2 and Web 3 space. And I hope that makes sense.
And then also probably creating those appropriate funnels too. Like if you were already getting that traction in Web 2, creating a space where people can find your Web3 work, whether it be a website that just highlights that you have NFTs for sale, or a link tree, or whatever, many different kind of ways. But they're probably out of that 500,000 streams, 0.01%, which is about 50 people or 500 people, awful at math. But those people have wallets, have ETH, and if they really stream and listen to music at the gym or however they consume it, some of those people will want to, buy that exclusive one-of-one NFT, or hit up 10 of their friends and start a party bid for it, or you never know. And so I think as long as it's still visible that you do both, I think rock both.
Just jumping into the marketing side of things, right? So platforms like Spotify, SoundCloud, Tidal, YouTube, you're able to create your own bios, your own links. It's very customizable. You don't have to go through the back end, or you don't need to speak to a rep over at that DSP. So you can, plug in all your NFTs there. If you think about YouTube, if your music video is going crazy at a certain point, you can put a title card, okay, you can buy this music video right now. That links out to a separate website, whether that's Zora or Glass or Catalog or Sound XYZ or Mint Songs. I can go off about all the NFT platforms, but figuring out how to bridge that gap on the marketing side of things is really important, where they can easily find your NFTs, and people who are buying your NFTs can easily stream your music. But if they're buying your NFTs, I'm pretty sure they know where to find your music to stream it.
What's up, Maya? So full disclosure, Io and I are working on a project together. But kind of what we've talked about too is using Spotify, using Tidal, using Apple as sort of marketing for your NFT projects. Unfortunately, the streaming services, the negative side is the streaming services took music and made it pretty much worth nothing. But the silver lining to that is it became accessible to everyone. One of my big fears in the Web3 NFT space, especially with the quote-unquote GigaChat prototypes, is that we're going to lose some accessibility around art. And for music, music being such a powerful thing, and it gets people through their day, it gets people through breakups, it gets the people through deaths. Like, we shouldn't be taking that away from people. So I think if you use these streaming platforms to your benefit and use it as marketing, and where people, if they really, fuck with you, they can tap into the NFTs that you're making, and using it as a marketing play, I think is the smartest way for musicians to tap into their experience.
Look at it like an Instagram account, right, or a Facebook account. It's promo. You're reaching the masses. We don't make money off our Instagram posts unless it's obviously a paid ad or something along those lines. When you're promoting your music, you don't get paid from it, but you're doing it for a reason, right? So think of it that way. But that's our last question. Quickly, I would want to make sure that we plug all of our socials here. So let's just go down the line really quickly. Let them know where they can find you on Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, or whatever is your preferred choice for people to hit your DMs.
So yeah, I'm Jay Ludman, JLUDMAN. Twitter and Instagram. It's the best place to reach me.
So on Instagram, I'm a normal person, DAVEHV. On Twitter, I'm just like an NFT monster. So I'm Zen Shorts on Twitter. You can follow me on both. You can hit me up on both, but that's where you can find me.
So Instagram and Twitter, I'm Jamar, JHAMAR. The profile picture is a flower, and that's our NFT. So it's JHAMAR.
And I'm your host, Goldie Harris. You can follow me on Instagram at Goldie Harris. On Twitter, it's by Goldie Harris. And when you tap into my socials, you'll see, 24 Hours is my company. You'll see United Masters, which is the company I work for. Let's give it up for you guys. Thank you so much for pulling up to Crypto Mondays, the South by Southwest Cool Down. This has been a blast chopping it up with you guys and speaking about everything Web3, and hopefully we can do more of these. We also host a Web3 Wednesdays at Bass Studios in not too far from here, but yeah, it's an open space, so pull up, let's talk, let's network. We're gonna be here all night.